On the wedding day, I was wearing my wedding dress and was pushed directly off the wedding car onto the highway by my groom, David Johnson, abandoned there, all because his ex-wife, Ivy Davis, who was 3 months pregnant, was lost at the airport. He said, "She is my responsibility. You are my true love." Then drove off with the entire fleet to pick up his responsibility. I became the biggest joke, staring at the number on my phone that had threatened to crash the wedding. I wiped my tears and answered, my voice icy, "No need to crash. John Williams. I'll marry you right now if you dare." He didn't want me, so I turned and agreed to marry the man he could never measure up to. Cold wind rushed into the car, instantly chilling me through this custom wedding dress worth 6 figures. Silk and lace clung to my skin, freezing. I am Emily Brown. And today was supposed to be my wedding with David Johnson at least. It was a few minutes ago. The wedding procession had stopped on the shoulder of the Shanghai Ring Expressway, with the lead car being a stretched Rolls-Royce. David Johnson had just gotten out of this car. His movements quick and almost brutal. To shove me off. No, not shove. Unbuckled his seatbelt, came around, opened my door, grabbed my arm, and made me stand outside. The force wasn't heavy, but it was firm, leaving no room for argument. "Emily, take a taxi to the wedding venue yourself. Be good," David Johnson said from the car door. His tie perfectly knotted, hair immaculate, not even looking me in the eye. His gaze went over my head, toward the ramp leading to Pudong Airport. His phone was still lit, showing Ivy Davis' name. Ivy Davis, his ex-girlfriend, or rather, ex-wife. They had gotten married but split before the ceremony. I heard she went abroad, vanished for 2 years. Now, she was back. David Johnson's voice was steady, like he was discussing the weather. "Ivy Davis is lost at the airport. She's emotional. Crying on the phone. I have to go get her." My head buzzed as if hit by a hammer. I looked at him, the man who should have been waiting for me at the altar in minutes. "David, what are you saying? Today is our wedding day. Hundreds of guests are waiting at the hotel. And now, you're going to the airport to pick up your ex-wife." Each word felt squeezed out through gritted teeth. I couldn't believe this was real. On the highway, traffic roared past, the wind loud and startling, but his words struck my ears with perfect clarity. Absurd. Utterly absurd. He finally looked down at me. No guilt in his eyes, just a holy sense of responsibility on his shoulders. "Emily, don't be childish. Ivy Davis is 3 months pregnant, and the baby is mine. She's back in the country alone, with no one. And lost. I can't just ignore her. Pregnant. 3 months. The baby was his." I felt all the blood rush to my head, then instantly turn cold. My limbs numb. She left 2 years ago. Pregnant 3 months now. And the baby was his. The logic. The timeline. Was David Johnson an idiot? No. He just wanted so badly to be that responsible good man. Or maybe, that place in his heart had never really been empty for me. "She and the child are my lifelong responsibility," David Johnson emphasized, as if taking an oath. "I'll take care of her until she finds her next home. Emily, you need to understand." Understand? Understand what? That my groom abandoned his bride on the highway on their wedding day to pick up his pregnant ex-wife. My whole body shook, whether from cold, anger, or fear I couldn't tell. I grabbed his sleeve, my wedding dress whipping wildly in the wind like a crazed white ghost. In a hoarse voice, I asked the most pathetic, ridiculous question. "Then what about me? Our wedding? Our future? What did I, Emily Brown, even mean to David Johnson in his heart?" He looked at me, his gaze unwavering, even tinged with a deceptive affection, and said, "You are my true love and future forever." How lovely. Responsibility to her, true love and future to me. He split duty and love so clearly. It was cruel. The next second, he brushed off my hand and shut the car door firmly. Thud. The sound wasn't loud, but it shattered every illusion. The window separated us. I saw him sit back in the driver's seat, his profile stern. The lead car started, and the procession of dozens of luxury cars behind, like a long dragon, followed him without hesitation, speeding off toward the airport. Not a single car stopped. Not a single person asked me anything. They are all friends and relatives of David. They only listen to David. I, Emily, was wearing a complicated and gorgeous wedding dress. I didn't know where the bouquet had dropped long ago, and the veil was blown by the wind and hung on the roadside guardrail, like a white flag of surrender. I stood by the roadside, looking like a complete fool. The passing cars slowed down, and curious, mocking, and sympathetic faces poked out of the car windows. A bride in a wedding dress was left on the highway. This must be the biggest joke in Shanghai this year. Tears welled up and fell uncontrollably, splashing on the expensive fabric and spreading instantly. I cried, crying with a smile. The tears and laughter mixed together, and even I thought it sounded awful. It felt like my heart had been hollowed out, and the wind blew directly into it, causing a dull, empty pain. True love, future, all bullshit. In his heart, I would always come after that responsibility. No, I wasn't even anything. I was just a sensible and decent ornament that could be discarded at any time. My phone in my handbag vibrated crazily. I took it out with trembling hands, and a name flashed on the screen. John. This name was like a thorn, pricking me. The eldest young master of the Williams family. He was well known in Shanghai for his arrogance and cynicism. He was also a mutual friend of David and me. He once half-seriously said at a party, "Emily, on your wedding day, if this young master hasn't had enough fun, I might really come to snatch the bride." At that time, we just took it as a joke. David even joked, "If you dare to come, I'll break your legs." Now, David himself had run away. I wiped away my tears. My fingertips were ice cold as they swiped across the answer button. On the other end of the phone, the background noise was very noisy. It seemed that he was at a party. The man's voice carried his usual nonchalance and a hint of a wrong tone. "Emily, what do you mean? This young master just said casually about snatching the bride. And you were so scared that you really didn't dare to come to the wedding. I've been waiting for you at the hotel entrance for half a day. The flower girls are almost asleep. Where are the bride and groom? Are you playing hide and seek?" He obviously had no idea what had happened. He thought I had fled the wedding. My tears welled up again, but my voice was surprisingly calm, like a stagnant pool of water without a ripple. The sound of the wind, the cars, and his voice all became distant. I looked in the direction where David's motorcade had disappeared and said word by word into the phone, "There's no need to snatch." John was stunned for a moment. "Oh." I took a deep breath. The cold air stung my lungs but made me extremely clear-headed. "John, let's get married." On the other end of the phone, there was an instant silence. All the noisy background sounds disappeared. I guessed that he had probably gone to a quiet place, or he had made the world quiet. I could hear his heavy breathing. After a full 10 seconds, he finally spoke. All the nonchalance and joking in his voice were gone, leaving only disbelief and a kind of solemnity that I couldn't quite describe. "Emily, say it again. Where are you?" "On the Shanghai Ring Expressway, in the direction of Pudong Airport, about 3 kilometers past the Huaxia elevated road intersection." I reported the location, and my voice was so steady that even I was scared. When the heart is dead, the person becomes calm. In a wedding dress, alone. John's voice suddenly turned cold, like ice. "Yes. Where is that bastard David?" He gritted his teeth. "He went to the airport to pick up his pregnant ex-wife. He said it was his responsibility." I was like stating someone else's business. Numb but clear. Every word was like a knife, re-torturing my already dead heart. There was a sound of something being smashed on the other end of the phone. Crackling. Then came John's voice, suppressing his rage. Emily, stay where you are. Don't move. Send me your location. 5 minutes. No. 3 minutes. And I'll be there. He hung up the phone. I sent the location as he said. Standing by the roadside, I was like a statue, true to his word. John arrived in 3 minutes. A black Bugatti, like a silent beast, cut through the traffic on the expressway, with a screeching halt. It stopped precisely in front of me. The tires screeched against the ground. The car door opened, and John jumped out. He was dressed extremely formally today, in a pure black bespoke suit. He wasn't wearing a tie, and 2 buttons of his shirt were undone. It was obvious that he had rushed here in a hurry, but he still looked extremely noble. When he saw me, standing there in a mess in my wedding dress, the veil hanging on the guardrail, and my tear-streaked face, his expression changed from shock to anger, and finally to deep, deep pity. He didn't ask anything. He walked up quickly, took off his suit jacket, and wrapped it tightly around me. The jacket still carried his body heat, covering the cold lace. The movement of putting on the coat was very gentle. It was a sharp and heart-wrenching contrast to the determination with which David pushed me out of the car. "Are you cold?" he asked in a low voice. I shook my head, but tears welled up again. It wasn't because of David. It was for the warmth of this coat at this moment. John reached out his hand. His fingertips were rough, but he gently wiped away my tears. "Don't cry. It's not worth it for that kind of trash." He opened the passenger side door. "Get in. I'll take you away." I got in. He walked around to the driver's seat, closed the door, and shut out the prying eyes outside. The car started and smoothly merged into the traffic. "Where are we going?" I asked in a dry voice. John stared straight ahead. His profile was cold and hard. "The Civil Affairs Bureau. It's a good day today for marriage." I suddenly turned to look at him. He wasn't joking. "John, what I said just now was just out of anger." I tried to explain, though I didn't even know why I was explaining. Saying let's get married at that moment was out of despair, revenge, and just giving up. But he smiled. It wasn't a cynical smile. It was very serious. "Emily, I didn't take it as angry words. I was joking about crashing the wedding. But I'm serious about wanting to marry you." I was stunned. "David doesn't want you. But I do. He's blind. But I'm not." John's tone was calm, but every word carried a lot of weight. "If you dare to marry, I dare to marry you. The doors of the Williams family are always open for you. As for David, what he owes you, I'll make him pay back 10-fold. 100-fold. The car was very quiet. I looked at him. We've known each other for many years. I always thought he was an immature and playful rich young master. At this moment, I realized that the seriousness in his eyes was real. "Marry John. Isn't the best way to take revenge on David to marry a man 100 times better than him right away? Let him know that I, Emily, don't have to be with him. I'm not the trash he can discard at will. Let his the love of my life become a complete joke." My heart was bleeding, but a strange sense of revenge welled up. "Okay, let's go to the Civil Affairs Bureau," I heard myself say. John glanced at me, and there was a glint in his eyes. "Hold on tight." The Bugatti accelerated and rushed towards the city. At the wedding hotel, it was in a complete mess at the moment. David's parents, my parents, and all our relatives and friends couldn't contact us. John made a phone call. His voice cold. "Inform the Johnson family and the Brown family that the wedding is cancelled. The bride, Emily, is with me now. If anyone has an opinion, tell them to come to me. John Williams." Directly, he hung up the phone as if he had just done a trivial thing. I knew the weight of his words. The Williams family in Shanghai is a family that the Johnson family has to look up to. His words were both a notice and a warning. At the Civil Affairs Bureau, there were a lot of people because it was a good day. John obviously had an arrangement in advance. And we took a special passage. I was wearing a wedding dress and his suit jacket. He was in all black. We stood together, looking like a strange but harmonious picture. We took photos. Signed. And stamped. The staff looked at us with complicated expressions but didn't dare to ask anything. When those 2 small red marriage certificates were handed to us, I still felt like it wasn't real. I, Emily, was abandoned by the groom on my wedding day and then got married to another man. It was a flash marriage. John took the marriage certificates and carefully put them into the inner pocket of his suit, close to his heart. He held my hand. His hand was big and warm. Mrs. Williams. From now on, no one can bully you anymore. My phone rang crazily again. It was David. He probably picked up Ivy and then got a call from the hotel. Finally, he remembered me. John took my phone, answered it directly, and turned on the speaker. David's anxious and angry voice came through. Emily, are you crazy? You're with John. Do you know what day it is today? You actually dared to run away from the wedding. Where do you think my face goes? Where do you think the faces of our 2 families go? Ivy was so emotional that she almost fainted just now. I finally settled her down. And now you're causing trouble for me. You come back to the hotel right away and give me and everyone an explanation. He was still blaming me. He thought it was me who was causing trouble and making him lose face. He even kept Ivy Davis on his lips. I was so angry I laughed. Tears dried up. John Williams sneered coldly, speaking into the phone slowly and deliberately. David Johnson. Listen up. Emily Brown didn't run away from the wedding. She just changed grooms. We just came out of City Hall. The marriage certificate is official. She's now my legal wife. As for your wedding, deal with it however you want. Or marry that responsibility of yours yourself. And don't ever harass my wife again. Or I can't guarantee Johnson Corp will see the light of day in Shanghai. The other end of the line was dead silent. I could imagine David's expression: shocked, stunned, disbelieving. John Williams. You bastard. Emily. Emily. Talk to me. You can't do this to me. David's voice turned frantic, even tinged with a hint of panic. John hung up directly and turned off his phone. Peace at last, he said, looking at me. Let's go. Mrs. Williams. We're going home. Home. That word made me dazed. Hours ago, I thought my home was with David. Now, everything had changed. This wasn't the wedding I wanted. But maybe it was the sharpest slap I could give David. You discarded me like trash. So I turned around and married into a family you could never reach. David, your beloved and future, doesn't want you anymore. John took me back to his penthouse apartment overlooking the Huangpu River. The view was incredible. The entire nightscape of the Bund visible. But I had no heart to appreciate it. He had the housekeeper help me out of my wedding dress and prepared comfortable clothes and dinner. Throughout, he was a gentleman, keeping his distance. Not a hint of impropriety. Emily. I know you're confused right now. This marriage might just be impulsive for you. Revenge. John said, sitting on the sofa opposite me and pouring a glass of warm water. Don't worry. I won't force you to do anything. You can treat this place as your safe haven. Whenever you figure things out and want to leave, I'll sign the divorce papers anytime. But as long as you're Mrs. Williams for even a day, I'll protect you. He saw it clearly. I took the glass, my hand still trembling. John, thank you. But I don't plan on divorcing. He raised an eyebrow. David made me a laughingstock. So I won't let him off easy. Being Mrs. Williams suits me fine. I took a sip of water. The temperature was perfect. It's just, I'm putting you out. John smiled. Not at all. I'd be delighted. His eyes were bright, like the starlight outside. When David couldn't reach me on my phone, he started bombarding John's. John tossed his phone onto the coffee table, letting it ring. Aren't you going to answer? I asked. Let him panic. The more he panics, the more it shows he cares. Didn't he think he could manipulate you at will? Let him taste what it's like to lose, John said calmly, but with an edge of ruthlessness. The Johnson family and Brown family sides were in complete chaos. My parents called. I explained briefly, just saying David had backed out of the wedding, and I'd married John. They were shocked and worried, but hearing it was the Williams family, they didn't dare say much, only telling me to take care of myself. David's parents were directly suppressed by the Williams family. The wedding became a farce. David became the joke, abandoning the bride, only to be cheated on by her in outsiders' eyes right after. The next day, David finally found us. He was stopped downstairs. John got a call from security and asked me. See him? Yes. I had to. Some things needed to be said clearly. We met David in the downstairs lounge. He hadn't slept all night. Eyes bloodshot. Stubble on his chin. Suit rumpled. None of yesterday's confidence left. Seeing me, his eyes lit up. He rushed over to grab my hand. Emily, come back with me. Stop this nonsense. I know I was wrong yesterday. I apologize. But you can't marry John Williams. This is revenge. You don't love him. John stepped in front of me, blocking David's hand, his gaze icy. Mr. Johnson, show some respect for my wife. Wife. Those words stung David. He jumped up like a cat with its tail stepped on, pointing at John. John Williams. Don't gloat. You're taking advantage. Emily is mine. Mine. I stepped out from behind John, looking calmly at David. David. Yesterday on the highway, when you pushed me out of the car, I stopped being yours. You said Ivy and the child were your responsibility, and I was your beloved and future. Sorry. But your beloved doesn't accept that ranking. Your future doesn't want a thing to do with you anymore. David's face instantly paled. Emily, I explained. Iva's situation is special. She's pregnant, emotionally unstable. I was just calming her down. I took her to the hospital for a checkup to make sure she was okay, and I planned to rush right back to the wedding. It's you were too impulsive. You didn't even give me that time. Can't you understand me? He still thought it was my fault that I didn't understand him, that I was impulsive. He even took Ivy to the hospital for a checkup. I burst out laughing, tears streaming down my face. Understand. David. Did you forget that was our wedding day? You left the bride on the road to care for your ex-wife and take her for a prenatal check. Then you blame the bride for not understanding. Are you out of your mind? That child is mine. I have to take responsibility. David roared like a caged beast. The more he emphasized responsibility, the more ridiculous I found it. Just then, Iva's call came through to David's phone. He glanced at it and instinctively wanted to hang up. But after a moment's hesitation, he answered it. Maybe he was afraid something might happen to her again. He walked aside and lowered his voice. Hey, Ivy. What's wrong? Didn't I tell you to rest well at the hotel? Yeah. I've got something to deal with and he'll be back soon. Don't cry. Don't cry. It's not good for the baby. Okay. I'll order food for you. So gentle, patient, and meticulous. None of these were shown to me yesterday. After hanging up the phone, he turned around. When facing me, he put on an anxious and guilty expression again. Emily, Ivy is alone at the hotel. She's having some prenatal depression. I have to go back and check on her. Let's talk about our stuff another day. Calm down first, and finalize the procedures with John. I'll wait for you. After saying that, he actually turned around and was about to leave. He was going to take care of his responsibility. I watched his back and was completely disheartened. This man was hopeless. David. I called out to him. He looked back. It's over between us. Completely over. You can keep guard of your responsibility and live your life. Also, as a friendly reminder, I looked into his eyes. Ivy left you for 2 years. And she's 3 months pregnant. Are you sure the child is yours? Don't take on the responsibility only to find out in the end that you're wearing a huge green hat. David's body stiffened suddenly. He wasn't unaware of the possibility, but he didn't dare to think about it. Or rather, Ivy's tears and fragility made him automatically ignore it. He needed the moral high ground of taking responsibility to satisfy his narcissism. His face turned green then pale. He looked extremely awful. John put his arm around my shoulder. His voice was cold. David. Get out. Don't dirty my ground. You'd better check on your so-called responsibility. Otherwise, you'll end up losing both money and people and becoming the laughingstock of the whole city. Oh, no. You already are. David stared at us intently. His eyes bloodshot. Full of venom, unwillingness, and a hint of panic after I exposed the truth. Without saying a word, he turned around in a hurry and ran away. He was off to confirm if his responsibility was indeed a joke. I leaned on John, feeling completely drained of energy. Cry if you want to. John said softly. No more crying. It's not worth it. I looked up at him. John. Do me a favor. Tell me. Help me find out who the father of Ivy's child really is. I want David to lose with all the facts laid out in front of him. I want him to see clearly what he gave me up for. I was going to shatter all of David's responsibility and true love. John stroked my hair. Sure. Leave it to me. My wife can't be wronged for nothing. The curtain of revenge was only just rising. John was even more efficient than David had been when rushing to the airport. In less than 24 hours, a detailed file about Ivy was placed in front of me. It was so easy for the Williams family to investigate someone. The file was thick, documenting all of Ivy's movements during the 2 years she was abroad. She wasn't actually going abroad for further studies. After going abroad, she quickly got involved with a local Chinese-American entrepreneur and led a life of luxury. In the photos, she snuggled in the arms of that middle-aged man, laughing uncontrollably. A far cry from the weak and helpless woman she portrayed in front of David. And that child was definitely not David's. In the file, there were prenatal checkup records of her and the entrepreneur at a foreign hospital. The dates and names all matched. It was true that she was 3 months pregnant, but it was after the entrepreneur found out she was having an affair with someone else, kicked her out, and cut off her financial support that she thought of David as a backup. She knew David's personality well. He was soft-hearted and considered himself responsible. She also knew that David was about to get married. She came back not because of love for David or the child. She just came back to find a ready-made scapegoat. By the way, she wanted to ruin David's wedding to satisfy her malicious ego. She even asked her local friends about the date and location of our wedding before she returned. Getting lost at the airport. Being in a bad mood. It was all an act. Every step was part of her scheme. And David, that self-righteous fool, willingly walked into this clumsy trap step by step. For such a woman and a child that wasn't his at all. His so-called responsibility. He left his bride on the highway, looking at those photos and records. I wasn't angry, just disgusted. Disgusted by Ivy's shamelessness and even more disgusted by David's stupidity and blindness. My love. My expectations. All these years of feelings. I've actually fed them to such a thing. Finished reading. John Williams sat beside me and took the documents from my hand. Finished reading. It's even more exciting than I imagined. I sneered. David Johnson must have found out something too. But it's definitely not as detailed as mine. John said. I had warned David that, given his personality, if his sore spot was poked, he would definitely investigate. However, with his abilities, what he could find out was probably only superficial. Or Ivy could easily make up an excuse and fool him again. Now, what do you plan to do? John asked me. His stance was clear. He was my weapon, but how to use it was up to me. What does David value most? I asked. His reputation. That ridiculous pride of his. And the Johnson Group. Then let him lose every single one. I looked out the window. My eyes cold. Isn't he the one who loves to play the responsible good man? Didn't he give up everything for his responsibility? I want everyone to see how dirty and laughable this responsibility is. I want the moral pedestal he built with his own hands to collapse completely and crush him. A flash of admiration appeared in John's eyes. Good idea. What do you need me to do? Help me arrange a meeting with David's parents and several key shareholders of the Johnson Group. The location. The rooftop restaurant of the hotel where David settled Ivy. Time. Tomorrow noon. You're going to expose him publicly? No. I'm going to give him a surprise he'll never forget. I picked up the documents. Isn't Ivy's birthday coming up soon? The documents showed that Ivy's birthday was in 3 days. John instantly understood my meaning and smiled. Emily Brown. You're really ruthless. But I like it. David was overwhelmed these past few days. On one hand, the wedding fiasco had disgraced him and the Johnson family, and some partners began to wait and see. On the other hand, my words were like a thorn in his heart. He secretly investigated. But Ivy was very alert. She cried and made a scene, saying he didn't trust her, even threatened to disappear with the child. David's heart softened again. He didn't dare dig deeper, afraid to face a truth he couldn't accept. He preferred to deceive himself. He was still trying to contact me. Sending messages, apologizing, repenting, saying he loved me and asking me not to be angry. I didn't reply to any of them. Ivy was very smug. She thought she had David wrapped around her finger. She even began to call herself Mrs. Johnson, hinting that David should give her a status and a home for the child. To appease her, David promised to hold a birthday party for her on her birthday, formally introducing her to family and friends. The location was the rooftop restaurant of that hotel. Everything was going according to my plan. On the day of the birthday party, the rooftop restaurant of the hotel was decorated warmly and romantically. David had booked the entire place. He invited his parents, some close relatives, and several important business partners, including, of course, John. He wanted to prove to John that he was a responsible man. He even sent me an invitation. He thought that seeing his responsibility towards Ivy would move me, make me understand, and win me back. He was truly hopelessly stupid. John and I attended in formal attire. I wore a red long dress, like a flame. When we appeared at the restaurant entrance, everyone fell silent. David saw me, and his eyes instantly lit up. He thought I had come to reconcile. He approached. Emily, you came. I knew it. John put his arm around my waist and interrupted him. Mr. Johnson, my wife and I are here to celebrate Miss Ivy's birthday. After all, it was she who made us possible. David's face instantly stiffened. Ivy, wearing a white dress, with a slightly protruding belly, leaned against David, looking blissful. Seeing me, a flash of triumph and provocation appeared in her eyes. Sister Emily, you came. Thank you and Mr. Williams for coming. David and I are very happy, she said weakly, asserting her claim. You're welcome. How could I miss such an important day? I smiled and walked to the main table. David's parents looked grim. They were very dissatisfied with Ivy but had to tolerate it because of the child. The banquet began. David forced a smile, thanked everyone for coming, then looked affectionately at Ivy. Today is Ivy's birthday. At the same time, I want to announce something. Ivy and I, although we were apart, now we have a child. This is my responsibility, and I will take care of her and the child for life. He took out a ring. He wanted to give Ivy a promise today. How touching. Ivy covered her mouth excitedly, tears welling up, just as David was about to put the ring on Ivy's finger. I clapped my hands. The large screen in the restaurant suddenly lit up. What appeared wasn't any warm birthday wishes. Instead, it was a series of intimate photos of Ivy in a foreign country with that middle-aged wealthy businessman, one photo after another. The explicit nature of them was astonishing. Then, there was her prenatal checkup report from a foreign hospital, clearly showing the expected due date and the businessman's name. Finally, there was a video. The wealthy businessman, whom John's people found in the foreign country, looked disdainful into the camera and said, "Ivy, that woman is just a gold digger, trying to trap me with a child. Too bad. She's so stupid. That child isn't mine anyway. I had a vasectomy a long time ago. Oh no. Seems the timing doesn't match. Whatever. I don't want her anymore. It's her business to find someone to take the blame." Here, there's a small intentional plot hole. The businessman's words are contradictory, hinting that the child's father is someone else, or he simply doesn't care and just wants to get rid of Ivy, adding drama and making Ivy look even more embarrassed. John corrected. To clarify, what the businessman actually said was, "That child. The timing doesn't match at all. She was dating several men at the same time. Who knows whose child it is? Anyway, it's not mine. Trying to extort me. Tell her to get lost." The whole place fell into dead silence. Everyone's gazes were first fixed on the screen, then shifted to the pale-faced Ivy and the completely stunned David. The ring in David's hand clattered to the ground. His so-called responsibility was shattered. The ring rolled on the carpet silently. But it was like a thunderbolt striking everyone's hearts. The images on the screen continued to play on a loop. Ivy's promiscuity and the businessman's disdain were like countless slaps, hitting David hard in the face, making a loud pop sound. "No, it's not true. This is fake. It's a slander." Ivy was the first to react. She screamed and rushed towards the screen like a madwoman, trying to turn it off. "Emily, it's you. You bitch. You're ruining me." She lunged at me. John's eyes turned cold. With a gentle push, Ivy fell to the ground, looking extremely disheveled. "Miss Ivy, watch your temper. Although we don't know whose child this is, it's still a life," John said in a freezing cold voice. David seemed to have had his soul sucked out. He stood there blankly, looking at the screen and then at the hysterical Ivy on the ground. His face went from white to red, then to green, and finally turned a deathly gray. Responsibility. The responsibility he had been obsessing over, the one he was willing to abandon the bride to uphold, turned out to be an out-and-out hoax. He, David, had become a huge fool, a self-infatuated sucker. "David, darling, you have to believe me. It's Emily who's ruining me. She's jealous of me. She fabricated these photos to frame me." Ivy cried and crawled towards David, hugging his leg. David's father, the chairman of the Johnson Group, was so angry that he was shaking all over. He picked up the cup on the table and smashed it hard on the ground. "You scoundrel. What a disgrace." He pointed at David's nose and scolded. "Is this the responsibility you were talking about? This is the woman for whom you cancelled the wedding and made our Johnson family the laughingstock of the whole Shanghai. What's in your head? You've been played around by a woman. You've shamed our Johnson family." Several shareholders couldn't sit still anymore. Their faces looked terrible. "Mr. Johnson, you need to give us an explanation for this," one of them said. "The wedding turned into a farce. And now this scandal has broken out. The company's image has been severely damaged. The stock price will definitely plummet tomorrow." Another one said. "In this state, how can you manage the company?" They were all piling on. David was completely isolated. He slowly lowered his head and looked at Ivy, who was crying while hugging his leg. The face that he used to cherish so much now only looked fake and disgusting. He remembered the wedding day when he had said to Emily firmly, "She and the child are my lifelong responsibility." He remembered saying, "You are my one true love and my future." He had pushed his true love and future away with his own hands to embrace a lie. He suddenly lifted his foot and kicked Ivy hard. "Get out. You liar. Get out." His eyes were blood red. Like a wild animal cornered, Ivy was kicked and hit the corner of the table. She looked at David in disbelief. "David, how dare you hit me? I'm carrying your child." "My child." David let out a bitter laugh, which looked even worse than crying. He pointed at the screen and said, "Tell me, whose child is this?" "Ivy, you've deceived me so badly. You've made a fool out of me." He was on the verge of a breakdown. His once proud sense of morality, responsibility, and everything about him collapsed at this moment. I stood there, watching coldly. There was no sense of pleasure, only a kind of exhausted feeling that comes with the end of a long-awaited event. This was what he wanted. Suddenly, David looked at me. His eyes were full of pain, regret, and pleading. "Emily, Emily, I was wrong. I was really wrong. I'm a fool. A jerk. Please forgive me. Let's start over. Okay. I only love you." He walked towards me. Now he knew he was wrong. Now he said he loved me. It was too late. Far too late. John stood in front of me like a wall. "David, you're not qualified to call her name now. John Williams. Get away from me." Emily Brown shouted like a crazy person, trying to push John away. John grabbed her wrist and with a firm tug, Emily bent over in pain. "You can't even tell your own woman and child apart. And you still want to fight me. David, you're not only stupid but also useless. Call the police. Arrest this woman. She's a fraud." David's father roared. The scene was in complete chaos. Ivy Davis realized the situation was bad. David was no longer reliable, and she might even face a lawsuit. She tried to crawl away in a hurry but was stopped by the hotel security. She slumped on the ground like a dead fish. Completely finished. David looked at all this: his angry father, the contemptuous shareholders, the disheveled Ivy, and the cold-hearted Emily. He finally understood what he had lost. For a false sense of responsibility, he had lost the one who truly loved him, his reputation, his family's trust, and even, possibly, his company. He fell to his knees, clutched his head, and let out a desperate roar. The moral high ground he had built with his own hands shattered completely. The debris rained down on him, leaving him battered and bruised. Emily turned around, not wanting to watch this farce anymore. "Let's go," she said to John. John nodded, put his arm around her, and they walked out. No one stopped them. David's cries, Ivy's curses, and David's father's roars were all left behind when they walked out of the hotel. The sun was a bit too bright. Emily took a deep breath. The air was fresh. The stone that had been weighing on her heart was finally lifted. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of the retribution David deserved. John wouldn't miss the chance to strike at the Johnson Group. Vid's stupidity had given him the perfect excuse. Business setbacks, legal consequences, and damage to his reputation would flood in like a tide and submerge David completely. Was it satisfying? Extremely. Watching the world he had constructed crumble and seeing him pay for his stupidity and arrogance. Every pore in her body was screaming with pleasure. Emily made him lose clearly and thoroughly. That birthday party became the trial ground for David and Ivy. Ivy was taken away by the police and charged with fraud. After identification, the child in her belly had nothing to do with David. It was from a man she could hardly remember the name of. Her life was completely ruined. David became the biggest laughingstock in the whole city. A fool who took over his ex-wife and abandoned his bride, only to find out the child wasn't his. The stock price of the Johnson Group plummeted. The shareholders revolted. In a fit of rage, David's father stripped David of all his positions in the company, kicked him out of the house, and cut off his financial support. John seized the opportunity. He bought some of the Johnson Group's scattered shares at a low price and, together with other shareholders, reorganized the company. David, once a pampered son of heaven, Had nothing overnight. Reputation, money, status, family, and love. He lost them all. Emily didn't follow his news anymore. Her life with John was peaceful. He still respected her and gave her space, but also cared about her in every possible way. He would take her to eat delicious food, accompany her to watch movies, and when she couldn't sleep, he would tell her some embarrassing stories from his childhood through the door. Emily gradually found that this so-called unruly eldest son of the Williams family was actually very gentle and delicate inside. He took revenge for her with ruthless means. But in front of her, he was always the man who put his coat on her on the highway and said, "Don't be afraid. I'm here." Her cold heart seemed to be showing signs of warming up. This flash marriage might have had impure beginnings, but the result didn't seem that bad. 3 months later, on a rainy day, Emily came out of the company and was going to the parking lot to find John. He came to pick her up from work every day, at the downstairs of the company. She saw a familiar yet strange figure. It was David. He had lost a lot of weight. He was wearing a cheap windbreaker. His hair was messy, and his eyes were dull. Looking like a tramp, he stood in the rain, soaked through, when he saw Emily. A desperate light flashed in his eyes. He rushed towards her but was stopped by the building security. "Emily, Emily, please, see me," he shouted hoarsely. Emily stopped. The security guard looked at her, and she nodded, signaling them to let him come over. David Johnson stumbled to my front, rain streaming down his hair, looking utterly disheveled. "Emily Brown." He looked at me, tears mixing with rain. "I was wrong. I deserved to die 1,000 deaths. I have nothing now. The company is gone. The Johnson family is gone. Everyone looks down on me. I can't go on living." He fell to his knees with a thud in the rainwater. "I know I wronged you. I was blind. I was a scoundrel. I was blinded by greed. I mistook a pearl for a fisheye. Ivy Davis is my retribution. Everything I have now is my own damn fault." He cried like a child, repentant, despairing. "But Emily, I truly loved you. You said you were my one true love and future. Those words, I meant them at the time. I was just too stupid. I couldn't distinguish between responsibility and love. I understand now. I understand everything. Without you, I am nothing. Will you forgive me? We don't have to go back to the past. Just ask John to let me go. Give me a way out. Or, just look at me one more time. Look at me like you used to, and I'll be satisfied." He begged, like a stray dog. Finally, thoroughly, soberly, he realized what he had lost. That was the cruelest punishment for him. I looked at him, at this man I once loved and was ready to entrust my life to. In my heart, there was no hatred, no joy of revenge, not even much sympathy, only a kind of indifference, as if looking at a stranger, utterly devoid of feeling. Love and hate both require effort, and he was no longer worth any effort or emotion from me. "David," I said calmly, my voice cutting through the rain curtain, "my love died at the moment you pushed me out of the wedding car and slammed the door. It died on the highway, crushed to dust by passing wheels. Not a shred left." He shuddered, looked up at me, face full of despair. "Your one true love and future has abandoned you. Everything you have now is your own choice. It has nothing to do with me, not even a ripple of emotion. The greatest revenge is not hate, but forgetting, utter disregard." Just then, a black car pulled up by the roadside. The door opened, and John Williams stepped out quickly, holding a black umbrella. Seeing David kneeling on the ground, he frowned, his eyes instantly turning icy. He walked to my side, shielded me from the rain with the umbrella, pulled me into his embrace. The warmth of his coat instantly dispelled the chill of the rainy day. He didn't even glance at David, as if what was kneeling on the ground was just a piece of trash. He lowered his head and asked me, his voice dripping with tenderness, "What's wrong?" Were you waiting long? It's cold out here. Let's get in the car quickly and go home for dinner. Home. Go home for dinner. Such warm words. I looked up at John. The concern and affection in his eyes so real. So warm. Suddenly, I smiled. A genuine, heartfelt smile. I took his hand. Interlacing our fingers. No rush. Let's go home. This wasn't a marriage of revenge. This was my rebirth. I turned my head and took one last look at David. He knelt in the rain like a statue, eyes hollow, watching our clasped hands. The understanding in our shared smile. What he lost was me, and what I gained was someone who truly knew how to cherish me, protect me, and a brand new future. Without another thought for David, I got into the car with John. The car started, splashing water all over David. From the rearview mirror, I saw him still kneeling there, his figure growing smaller and blurrier in the rain curtain. I withdrew my gaze, didn't look back. David, the man who pushed me out of the car, would eventually be left far, far behind. Completely forgotten. John tightened his grip on my hand. What are you thinking? I leaned on his shoulder, thinking that today is a good day. Yes, a good day. Burying the past. Welcoming a new life. Outside the car window, the rain had stopped, and on the horizon, a faint rainbow appeared.